Hello and welcome to a random drop-in of a Age of Empires 2 game. Um, I am a big fan of Age of Empires 2, and this is just a bit of practice for me to sort of learn how to cast and practice and learn the game a little bit better. Um, you know, I think it's good to just check out games, and these two people are my unfortunate test subjects. Here we have Criticize. I'm going to assume that's Criticize, that name for player red, who is playing the Bulgarians, I believe. And then we have Danny, who is playing, what was it, Cumans? Yeah, Cumans up there. So we've got Danny with the Cumans, Criticize with the Bulgarians. I don't know the first thing about the teams, really. I think Cumans are the one who get the extra town center at feudal age, and Bulgarians are the ones who have those funny infantry, or cavalry, who fall off and become infantry. This is a very unusual start, but maybe they know the game better than me, where they're luring a boar very early on. So if you're unfamiliar with Age of Empires, I will do my best to abridge some of the play that occurs, but if you are familiar with the game, you'll probably look at me and laugh and laugh and laugh and point at all the silly things that I say and do as this game goes on. So luring at a boar very early, kind of unusual. Usually want a few more villages because food degrades on a boar slowly over time, and you want a whole bunch of villages harvesting all at once. I think that was just an attempt to return food then to get enough food to get another villager. Meanwhile, on the other side, much more standard over here, collect all your goats and farm off them while getting a lumber camp up, harvesting resources for a little bit. You only need enough resources initially to make sure you are building more villages at the start of the game. And then you go and you put other villages on wood, so you can start building buildings, like building a mill over here so you can collect your berries. And as your villager population gets up and up and up, you stop putting villagers on wood. I think 4 is typically the standard, and you start putting them on food again. And once you've got enough villagers, and here goes the 6th villager out to hunt a boar, lure him over. That's when you start trying to hoard and amass food so you can go up to the next age, from the Dark Age to the Feudal Age, where you get better text, better military, better buildings, all the good stuff. And you see now he's sort of gathered his villagers out to hunt this boar. There goes the mill, another house for more villagers. What's the Cuman player up to? Let's have a quick flip over here to see what Danny's doing. And Danny's got a mill coming up. Yeah, pretty standard. Again, only 3 villagers on lumber, but that's also valid if you know your build orders. I don't know my build orders. I don't know how to play this game very well. I have a set of general skills, which I apply globally to strategy games of macro, and it seems... Oh, just had a momentary lag there, waiting for data from the game server. I'm not sure if that was an issue with them, but it seems more likely it was an issue with me. And yeah, I have a general set of knowledge where I can apply it to all RTS games. I know how to build an economy by constantly building workers, and how to produce units at a consistent rate from multiple production buildings. And here we see villagers getting attacked by this cavalry, who's actually very effective in hurting that villager, but if they come to blows, you'll see the cavalry doesn't actually, the scout cavalry, doesn't actually have too much health and has no better fighting stats than the villagers. It's just that health. So they can die very easily from villagers if he pushes his luck there. It looks like a boar actually killed a villager in that little exchange. That's actually very advantageous for Danny. Criticize is going to be a little bit upset about that, I imagine. And he doesn't have his scout currently scouting. Something so important in this game, and something they added recently, was auto-scouting. You just click on the scout and there's a little button, and then the scout runs around and scouts the whole map for you, slowly on its own, favouring certain terrains. Here they've clearly queued up a bunch of marker points, or is that auto-scout? I can't tell. It's kind of a smooth curve in a circle. Whereas I don't know, if I was like randomly setting waypoints for my scout, they'd walk in a square more than a circle. But then I'd say Danny on the flip side has done the right thing, run straight out here, found where his opponent started, so now he knows they're across map, they're not very close, and hopefully he's set his scout to auto scout now, so he can... Yeah, this is looking like auto scout a little bit more, because it's clearing out Nope, never mind. I make claims and I don't know what I'm talking about. You're going to see that a lot in this video. So the next part of this, and this is why Age of Empires is so cool, is as you transition from the early game, like the very, very first, 5-10 minutes, into the feudal age, you want to start walling up, like this, because that keeps the enemy out of your base. It means they can't harass your workers with raids, and it's what makes Age of Empires really one of the best strategy games out there, is the maps are very dynamic. It's random map generation, so where your resources are isn't fixed each time. So yeah, there's gold here, and stone here, and food, and berries, and so it's roughly, you're always going to have roughly resources near you to begin with, but it may not be balanced, it may not be fair. As you can see, there's a gold here that's right near this wood line. This should be relatively easy, depending on how they do it. They could wall up to here, that's pretty safe. Across here maybe, but then there's this big open spot which is going to be so hard to wall. All you can basically do is build a giant wall of military buildings and whatnot across there. And while on the other side we've got, again, easy to wall side, much easier to wall along this gold line to this tree. You can wall to that gold line, and then wall here, wall there, or even just wall straight across, or if they do the scouting and they know that this is safe, you can wall here and here in very efficient ways, and then you have this whole corner of the map with all these resources available to you locked off safely in your corner, which could be incredible. Like, it's really advantageous. So the map generation is really important, and what this creates is a very dynamic experience where you have to adapt to what's going on in the game to properly get ahead of your opponent and figure it out. And here we see, because green reached the feudal age first, they built the stables and now they're producing scout cavalry. Red needs to get some sort of a wall up. This is actually acceptable, just what they've got here so far, to keep out those scout cavalry. Trying to wall in that cav, was it? I don't know. But if you get like a wall up to here, maybe to there, even something a little bit across here, as long as the scouts have to go by your town center, they will get shot at when you garrison people in the town center, and that can give you the chance to, defend yourself. So this is a very fortified location, but unfortunately, that's their next gold. I'm trying to see if there's any other resources out here that is actually worth going for, and it looks like not. So it would actually kind of just be worth it, just wall, and then wall straight across, maybe, in a big line across there, but I'm not so sure about that. It's sort of a bit of give and take, and here we see now there's no sort of protection on these villages. They're going to have to run home to this town center to keep them from dying. Might actually, yeah, that's going to be a lost villager. Only the one, but that's still kind of painful, especially so early on. Might lose a second here, sending a scout out to fight, but that scout's not going to do much. He's just getting ganged up on. Town center is garrisoned, but not in range to shoot. Oh, there we go, there's a shot. But now they're in here, which is why they needed just a little bit more defense there, and maybe across here, like a couple more houses, to direct the scouts across to this, across the town center if they wanted to engage. So now you see there's a whole bunch of idle time for these villages, and when you go up to the feudal age, scouts actually gain more damage, so they're actually more, do more damage and faster at killing villagers, whereas villagers remain on only 3 damage, although he has got loom to give them more armor. So villagers right now are more vulnerable to those scouts at this point in the game. And we've been focusing on crit sizes base, so let's go have a look. And as you can see, yep, here we go, building across there. Yeah, so you can see that Danny hasn't scouted down here to see that there's an amazing walling spot there, but that's kind of to be expected. It's unreasonable to think that someone would explore, this far expecting an easy place to wall. So it's not like an error on the player's part, but if they had been lucky to see that little 2 bits there, that would have meant, a really secure corner. They might have even been able to see this relic, catch that gold. So just stuff for the future, but it seems like they're microing quite a bit over here, but these scouts are going to be driven off now because they're low health. Well, kind of close fight. They might be able to clinch it out. I think that's an even fight because the red one, if it hits the green one's dead, and then I almost think at this point Danny should just turn around and fight it. I think he'd win if he gets a hit with this scout in, and crit size is realized and turned around for the fight. Oh, Oh, wow, that hill advantage just barely clinched it out. So attacking downhill gives you an attack bonus, which very clever of Danny to utilize that. That's the kind of thing I do, actually, where I will occasionally drop the ball on economy to focus on microing really well. To the point where my best performance in RTS games is when I just hotkey my main production building for villagers or workers or whatever, and I just spam the build queue. And same with military buildings. That's how I best perform, is I micromanage my army, and then just occasionally hit the hotkey, spam the build button on units. See, these scouts are trying to do something, but they're so weak. One hit will take that scout down, 2 hits will take the other one down. They really can't achieve much. They might be going for that low health Vil, and didn't get it. Unfortunate, but I think the damage has been done by Danny at this point, and there you go, Danny's fully walled off. So now crit size won't be able to get in even if they want to. Ooh, that was not... Wait. Oh, okay. I think Danny thinks there's still a bug in the game. I don't know, maybe it is still in the game, where once you research wheelbarrow, it doesn't come into effect until you've recalled your villagers and sent them back to work. It's kind of funny that he thought to do that with the farms. So very, very thoughtful there. I think Danny is definitely showing that they're very knowledgeable, and they have demonstrated some actual, like, good developing skills here, if not quite excellent skills. I'm not very good at picking rankings, but I'd have to say that Danny, if they were to play, would do pretty well in ranked ladder. This definitely is above new player levels, if you know what I mean. They're not amateurs. I don't mean to say, like, it's not meant to be a negative. Players of all different skills play this game, and some of the best, you know, as long as you're playing and you're having fun, you're giving it a really good try, you know, you'd be doing good for yourself. You'd be having a good time. But one thing I have noticed is, if this is Cumans, let me just click on it real quick. Yeah, so this is Cumans. So what Cumans can do is that Dark Ages, Feudal Age, sorry, they can build a second town center, which Danny hasn't actually done. Which is a big deal, because that means you can produce twice as many workers compared to your opponent. Instead, he's just gone to the next age, where you can all build extra town centers. So it hasn't really leveraged the best advantage of the Cumans. And so we're seeing a demonstration of good skills, but that seems like a strange lack in, I don't know, knowledge maybe, where they didn't think to utilize this really important factor of their team. See a scout coming out. I assume this is just to look around and not actually fight. And again, you see crit size reacting very quickly there, probably because they're in the area here looking at what's going on, but also because reacting quickly is a sign of good micro, good player skill, and it does drive these this scout cavalry off. And this is kind of funny, attacking the mining camp to sort of be like, no, I'm not doing anything, but it's also kind of distracting to have a horn constantly blowing, and we'll see these villagers are gonna... Man, this is so frustrating. What you'd really want, other than walling that one spot in so they can't keep doing that, you'd really want, again, just, yeah, wall there. Just two spaces, or even like a house awkwardly placed in that corner and then a single palisade. It's not entirely Crit Size's fault. It's a little bit deceiving, that gap there. And I think, are we doing something there? Oh. Not entirely sure what's going on. We see a castle going up for Danny, and this is where I start to wonder what the plan is, because typically when you get to the castle age, the first thing you want to do is be looking at building a town center, or build knights. A town center if you want to, boost your economy, or start going into military units like these knights are, if you want to pick fights. We see a post coming up here, which is like a miniature castle. Allows you to build your unique units, and I think it can fight a little bit as well. We'll see when that comes up. We see Kipchaks coming now, so the unique unit for the Cumans, who are horse archers that fire 3 times. And yeah, we see knights coming out here, so Crit Size is clearly gearing up for a real aggressive fight. We see cavalry running around. Any upgrades? No real upgrades on them yet. That's understandable. Upgrades kind of expensive. you know, they take away from going up ages and getting more vills, so it's not always an immediate thrust to get upgrades unless you can really make use of them. You need a few units on the field before you can, but I think this Kipchaks thing is actually going to really favour Danny at this point, because he's going to come up over here. And you see there the Krapost actually doing good work there, but these Kipchaks are already behind the stone line and they're going to start shooting at vills. That's going to cause some real issues. There's the second town centre from crit size, which is very important because if crit size can hold off against these Kipchaks, that'll be a vill lead in... Oh no, there we go. Second town centre from Danny as well, right on that stone. We see the knights bashing down the wall and coming in, being let in by the spears, which is a huge disaster. Camel coming out. Camel's effective against cavalry, but this is just such a chaotic mess. I can feel almost some panic coming from Danny as he's scrambling to sort of deal with what's going on in his base. That will get cleaned up. There's enough anti-cav in there, but you can see villages getting pulled from wood lines, units being built, like camels are being built where really didn't need that many camels. And meanwhile over here, these Kipchaks are basically sat idle, attacking a palisade, trying to get in. I don't know, maybe they did a little bit of work that I didn't see. Do we have a kill count? Military... Oh yep, that was kills death. Kills death 4 and 12. Yeah, so it looks like quite a few red units have actually died by this point. 14 deaths is a lot, so I think we've probably got a few vills cleaned up, as well as those 3 knights, the scouts early on. Yeah, it's really looking quite... You know what, I'll sit on this. Villager count, kills deaths. This is kind of the more important stat screen to see. Being able to see that red's ahead in vills sort of indicates a couple of things to you, but we'll just keep an eye on it for now. Because green has all the military, and the funny thing about Kipchaks is because they're a ranged cavalry unit, the best answer to them is it's not intuitive what you want to build to fight that, because do you want to build skirmishers who are good against ranged units? They have a high resistance to ranged damage, and especially Kipchaks who fire 3 arrows. Or do you want something fast that can chase them down? Oh, losing 2 Kipchaks, that hurts. This Kripost placement's kind of great. We see some conics coming in, and it seems the play will be building just more conics to chase down these Kipchaks. I think they're equal in speed, but now we're going to see this raiding going on, and that's because this side just hasn't been properly defensively walled, and I know it's quite a big area to wall, but it feels necessary to prevent this kind of thing, and red can even see, crit size can even see at this point, this area that they could have theoretically walled, and if they're building Kriposts along here, they could have built, you know, they could do it now, build a wall there, build to there, you know, build across. There was an opportunity to do that, and they haven't properly followed through, but this is pretty good. That town center placement, oh, that is devastating. Green's losing a lot of units for not a lot of rewards. Danny's just, because these town centers are placed kind of close to each other, this is the exact kind of death zone I was talking about. They just need to wall up over here a little bit, and then they'd be pretty secure between the Krepos and the 2 town centers. That's actually a very defensible position from crit size there. Does still feel like Danny is a little bit dominant this game. And we'll have to see how it goes, because I think they're both probably going to start gearing up to going into the Imperial Age soon. It sort of feels like they've had their next stage of fighting and poking defenses, and we're going to see a castle go up in the back. Yeah. We've got a few units just loitering around Danny's base that sort of need to group up. Actually, quite a few military from Danny. So Danny might be looking to go forward and pick a real fight. And yeah, we see a siege workshop coming up. So Danny's plan is to go after this Kripost, but with the 7 range, that's very dangerous. I think Onaga, or... Is it Onaga? What's the first level of Onaga? Is it Onaga? Mangonel? Mangonels, I think, don't have quite the range to outrange a Krepost, or they might outrange it by literally 1. So we'll see. We've got Danny open here to Danny over here in the green, just to see what their build order is, and they're building. Building a ram. Okay, so he wants to ram down the base. That's a bit different. I don't think it's a bad strategy. It's actually probably makes more sense than the Onager because of the range issue. And with the military backing it, it's going to be very hard for Kritzai's to defend against it. But we'll have to see what the castle does, because the Kreppost, sorry, once the ram gets into melee range of the Kreppost, it won't be able to shoot anymore, and that'll give the opportunity for the Conics to come in. As you can see, these Kipchaks only have 6 range overall versus the Conics, the Kreppost 7. But we're seeing, again, this vulnerable spot here where the stone's been mined out. The Kipchaks are able to just sort of sneak over in box formation. I think that might be to dodge counter siege shots that might come their way. And that is another town centre, so that it does seem like Kritzai is making their best effort at booming up and getting lots of vills to compensate for the painful raids they've had to deal with, and that is where their resources are going instead of building a big military, as Danny's done. But right now, it's that's ouch. That's a lot of stone gone. But as you can see, yeah, this is being very difficult. These Conics could actually do some good work between the town centre fire, but losing this many vills can be a little bit devastating. But we are going to see the Conics coming in. Oh, they got distracted by scout cabs. Oh, but into the castle! The trap castle, and Danny has realized what's happened and is losing Conics like you wouldn't believe. Sorry, Kipchaks like you wouldn't believe. That is fairly painful, but gonna make a pass by the Kreppost as well. I don't think that was too bad. I think the amount of damage Danny's caused with the idle time, Vill's not working, and now we're going to have a big engagement here, but these Conics are actually kind of deceiving for strength. Although I don't pick them as a favourite against this particular lineup. I think while it's very gold intensive, the Camels plus the Kipchaks is very strong against this, because you've got a ranged unit that does a lot of, very effective amount of damage, an anti-cav unit, and yeah, the dismounted Conics tend to be very, very poor, very slow in fighting ability. See a market out the front. I wonder if that was to trade some resources. I like to imagine that after this, Kritzai is going to realize that they're somewhat behind in military production and switch to it now, so that they can gear up to win future fights. And to be honest, Kreppost do fit that description. And a siege workshop, yes, to get that mangonel and to fire big AoE splash shots on the Kipchaks. So many similar names, and I'm not perfectly familiar with all of them. We've got 2 rams waiting there from Danny, and Danny's going up to the Imperial Age. We'll see what's Kritzai's up to. Kritzai sees the siege workshop and goes, oh, there's units in there. Bashing on that a little bit, and also near going the Imperial Age, so this does need to happen very soon if Kritzai wants to keep up. But spending resources like crazy, just needs to get to that 1,000 food and then go up. But there we go, a whole bunch of Conics queued up, and I suspect when Kritzai sees that Danny has gone up, Kritzai will have a momentary panic of like, oh no, I'm behind, and try and catch up. But oh, this is not the time, I don't think. There's a lot of Conics around. And those Kipchaks aren't going to be... they're effective against the Conics, but the Conics have 3 melee armor, so I think the extra shots from the Kipchaks are doing minimal damage, and those siege rams have all gone down. And I think there was even a couple of Kipchaks lost in there. And the Conics are just really resistant right now. Needs to wait a little longer to get some upgrades, I think. Because, yeah, these Conics are just running at him, and he's got no way to sort of fend them off. Just needed those Camels even, would have been something. But, yeah, and there's the Imperial Age tech up. And I think at this point, poor Kritzai is going to realize, oh no, I'm behind, I need to immediately go to the Imperial Age before this tech advantage catches up to me. And you should expect the click. Yeah, there it goes. So now we're going to see Kritzai go up to the Imperial Age. So we're going to have an Imperial Age fight. We'll see how that goes for upgrades. What is Danny up to? Danny is getting trebuchets immediately out of these castles. I take it this one. Oh, yep, 2 out of the same castle. That's fine, yeah. So 2 trebuchets coming out. I'm going to roll up. Oh, there's a castle, okay. And start hammering on these Krepos, and that will force Kritzais to either go in and fight or to lose the Krepost. And at this point, I honestly think losing the Krepost would be the right idea. And I think I actually saw Kritzais is now getting elite skirmishers to try and fight against the Kipchaks, including ballistics and thumbring. And I disagree with that. I don't know if I think that is the right call. I think maybe siege is the right call. Getting a mangonel, an onager, and exploding on your enemies with those projectiles. Conics are also very good, and since you're so focused in already on conics, like you don't want to be then having to get the upgrades for skirmishes as well. See, the conics have, if I can select just an individual one, they've got +2 armor and +2 pierce armor, so that means I believe that's 2 armor upgrades at that point for the unit. +2 attack, I believe that also might be +2 damage upgrade for the units. So there's already been a lot of research invested into the conics. Meanwhile, the skirmishers, no upgrades. Just base stats. And in addition, conics, when they die, they drop into infantry units. So I'll see if I can find a dismounted conic somewhere. But a dismounted conic is an infantry unit, so they use infantry stats. And infantry, then you need to do a completely separate set of upgrades for those infantry, separate from the rest of your conics. And that means that you've invested in 2 military units when your opponent at this point has probably only invested in 1.5, depending on what these light cav have. And you see the light cav have no additional attack. They have 1 armor upgrade, and the armor upgrade I believe might apply to the Kipchaks because they're cavalry. No, it looks different. I'm not sure on the upgrades. This is not my finest. This is actually a really good fight for Kritzais. Kritzais is getting a lot of kills, and it's kind of a shame that Danny's focusing in like this. But I think what Kritzais is going to run into pretty soon is just the lack of resources. Got a lot of gold here to keep them going for a while, but the woodlines are getting chewed through, and they'll have to drift out this way and just become slowly more and more exposed. And Danny's been really taking advantage of that. Meanwhile, back home, Danny's sprawled out. You got these really long walls of stables protecting those sides to some degree. The house wall and this south side still guarded. Well, they're starting to chew through the trees now. And yeah, you can see Danny's trying to build some sort of a defense back there for the future. While this situation is tense here, there is a large number of military. The military numbers might look like they favor Danny, but I think the problem Danny's having is that they're building scout cavalry. Is it even... Oh, okay, finally got Hussar upgrade. But Hussars are not strong, and they're running straight into these fights over and over, where conics are going to win that fight and do devastating amounts of damage. And now that we've got the trebuchet rolling up nice and close, it looks like the tables have turned, and now Kritzais feels confident enough to go in and win these fights, although focusing on the trebuchet is a mistake. Win the fight, then take out the trebuchet. I know it's scary, but it's kind of a necessity. And now we're going to see a lot of... the military is kind of close. I kind of wish if Tanny had wanted to get... Oh, there's a couple of damage upgrades on the skirmishes. It's kind of awkward that both trebuchets went down, which isn't great. It was just a really messy fight there. You don't want to rush in on your enemy's trebuchet. I know it's scary that you could be losing an important building, but send a villager to repair it, or 3 villagers to repair it, win the fight against the units, and then destroy the siege, the trebuchet. Only focus on the trebuchet if it is absolutely necessary for your survival to kill it, because if you focus on the trebuchet, there's a good chance you will lose the fight, and if you have no army and nothing to defend you, the enemy will still win that, win the game, basically, even if you've killed their trebuchet. Whereas if you kill their army and you lose the castle, but they have no army left, then you're in an advantageous position. And yeah, now the Kipchaks are just showing a completely dominating position here. That Krepost is going to go down. The best effort here trying to trap down the enemy castle is doing okay, but the Kipchak numbers are too strong. 26 Kipchaks and no real answer for it. We've got the skirmishers in the back, but again, I don't favor the skirmishers, partly because they have the 4 pierce defense, but you could have more, whereas the Kipchaks are currently doing 6 damage. If you had just 1 or 2 archer upgrades, that damage would be the Kipchaks doing purely just 1 damage. I think they're the ones that fire 3 arrows, aren't they? I might be completely wrong with the 3 arrow thing. But either way, spreading your upgrades so thin is what's really hurting crit size here, as well as just general advantages that have slowly been swinging towards Danny's favor, accrued over the course of the match. Even the vill count, 88 to 115, that's nearly 30 villages favored for Danny, and you're going to see Danny's now so unafraid that they're just sort of running in and fighting here. Although, to be fair, those skirmishers did a lot of work there for killing Kipchaks. Very effective. And it looks like crit size is going to hang on for a little bit longer here. And with so many idols, just need to task them to something. Please, and beg. I know it's very hard when you're trying to micro a fight, so I don't actually criticize them. We've got archers, bog standard archers with upgrades coming in. No tech upgrades, just, you know, military blacksmith upgrades. Again, stop focusing on the treb. If you lose this town center, that sucks. Build a mill. You have 1, 2 more town centers somewhere else. And yeah, this looks like it's going to be the death blow. I imagine crit size is going to call it pretty soon after this. When your opponent has this strong of a position, it's very difficult to drive them out and recover, especially when you look at the vill count and you know the advantage that Danny has. I know crit size can't see that, but with the military coming in and being so relentless, and now the scouts are going to run through, start harassing, going to see everything that crit size has, which isn't much, and harass. And yeah, now first town center's going to go down. There it goes. Yeah, and so this is looking pretty devastating. Malt Danny over this side is in a very solid, dominant position throughout. Nothing harassing their base, taking all their resources, eating them up. Very solid. And now it's just sort of a matter of waiting to see the conclusion of the game. We've got this trebuchet boldly trying to treb down this castle, and some poor halbs are jumping in there, but they're going to get cleaned up while they attack it. And again, at least kill the treb. Kill the treb. You lost all your forces. Okay. Again, that was actually the right decision to stop attacking the treb, because the castle is on so much health, and then all the units got cleaned up, and then the treb died. Again, so that was the right call, was to stop attacking that treb, and to focus on other things. Focus on the fight at hand. But these Kipchak numbers, there's no sort of real way to deal with them. I do appreciate that we're seeing trash units that are referred to skirmishers and halberdiers who don't require gold. So they're very efficient, very easy to build for basically anyone, are being utilized to fend off these attacks. And we see another trebuchet coming in here. I feel like Danny's in the mindset that they've already won as well, and so they're just basically throwing stuff forward. But if you look back here, do you see gold? Do you see gold? I can hear gold. Can I? There's some gold. A little bit of gold. A little trickle. Although, to be fair, there is a lot banked up. But do you see gold around here? I don't see gold. Every trebuchet is 200 gold. That is an expensive investment. And it's a good unit. It does what you want it to do really well. But it's expensive. You don't want to be just throwing them away just because you think you won. You want to be trying to keep things even. And we see another town center trying to go down here. Well, the military fights. The military, I think at this point, if Danny just goes in, it's a victory for Danny. But Danny's sort of timid with his Kipchaks, doesn't want to lose them. At this point, for some reason, even though there is really nothing that could sort of fight them. I guess the skirmishers have been causing them a lot of trouble. But yeah, we see not a lot of military to fight off Danny from crit size, and Danny's just seems slightly timid in the face of it. Considering they're maxed out on population cap, and with 68 military to 16, you know, Danny just needs to A-click in there, or patrol in here, I guess. I'm used to other games where you A-click in. But yeah, patrol in and kill everything there. And that should theoretically just be the game over. But showing some real timidness here, scared to sort of engage the fight, and if these villages garrison, we could be seeing more and more units die needlessly. But to be fair, I don't see a way out of this for crit size. Like, they don't have anything to fight with. They have 2 military. It sort of feels like new player fight to the death, or yeah, sheer stubbornness. And there we go. We'll just have a quick survey of this map. So, where would I say the biggest vulnerabilities were? There was that mill early on. I think it was around this section here, this part of the map. There was a hole there. There was a stretch here that needed to be walled off, and that could have locked troops from coming out. And then ate through the stone and didn't wall it up. Relied too heavily on creposts to fend off attacks, and this castle being built in the back definitely needed to be in a more aggressive, or you know, a better defensive position. That could have been a crepost just fine as well. You know, your castle could have been put somewhere towards the front where the enemy attacks were coming in. Otherwise, I can't say that I play better than these people. I think these people played excellently. I think they both gave a very strong showing of what they're capable of. And I hope that they keep playing this game and keep performing as well as they did. Danny especially, throughout the game, seemed to have a lot of confidence and you know, a very strong grasp on how they should play the game. Walling out here, and then as they expanded, you know, as they started coming out here, they were walling there. As they came out here, they were walling there. Just ensuring that there was a constant protection as they developed throughout the game. And then as they started pushing forward, the confidence to build the siege workshop, the forward castle, and then once they had a very secure victory, look at that, a mining camp with a castle on top of it. That was very well positioned and played. It meant that they had secured gold for the future. Even though I criticized running out of gold here, there was more for them, and that's actually their enemy's gold because it's on the enemy side of the map. So Danny really sort of showed a lot of strength and confidence, while I feel like Criticize's biggest flaw was falling into the trap of not knowing what to upgrade and not knowing what to build and how to counter 100% effectively against those kip checks. But I can understand it's a very hard thing to decide when you have a unique unit like the Conic that requires so many upgrades, they're so upgrade intensive, and your opponent has a unit that isn't counted by the things you're upgrading. It can put a lot of stress on the player to make those decisions. But either way, that was a very good showing, and let's just have a quick look at the stats. Military took the lead for crit size. What? How? They lost in every single regard. And yet they got the higher military score. That's pretty funny. 20% of the resource value cost of all enemy units, buildings, each player destroyed or converted. Okay, so that's a bit eye-opening to me. So it turns out crit size had actually killed much more value of resources, which means gold, you know, food. High expensive units was what crit size was killing, and almost killed equal numbers, but just never had quite the army size equal to Danny. And so it seems that crit size actually did very well in regards to how they were playing and what they were doing to counter the enemy. Economy, that's no surprise, the winner usually has the most resources. Research, more researchers on crit size, that's impressive. It does make me wonder what Danny was doing. Not in a negative way, but I'm curious to know what upgrades they perhaps missed if they had a low research count. Did they miss out on economy upgrades or military upgrades? What is it that they could have invested into? Because they did have a massive amount of resources at the end, the big, huge lump of gold. And then society, need to capture relics, guys. If you're playing, I know it's kind of a little bit difficult to remember to build a monastery when you're trying to get all your other things going, and then building a monk, and then tasking them to get a relic and come back. It's a lot of stuff going on. It really is. in this game, and that's why I have such high regard to it. But it's so important because it's a passive gold for the rest of the game. And depending on who you are, that can be incredibly valuable to you. And monks in general are just a very good unit against things like conics, against siege if you get the upgrade that allows them to convert siege. Monks can be very effective. Timeline, yeah, so it seems the game felt pretty even, very reasonably even, but as you can see, you can see the military dominance throughout the game here for Danny, where Crit Size just didn't really bring that to the table. There was this point in the game where they were fighting around that front path and it was very back and forth, where I actually think, again, Crit Size had some advantages, but I'd fairly say that this was probably fighting around those trebuchets, where so many units went in, and after that point, Crit Size just never really recovered their army. You see, it got diminished there as Danny's army continued to surge, and after that it was just sort of game over from there. So all in all, that was pretty great from these players. I think they both did an excellent job, and I look forward to dropping into more games in the future, and I hope you join me for them because they're a lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching. Come again next time.